They got into an accident and immediately calls 911. Then she calls her twin sister. Her twin sister shows up. The police end up showing up, and now the twin sister, Sarah, is telling the police that she was the one driving. Okay, so they switched identities of who was driving and crashed into the buggy. 2 children lost their lives. 2 others were injured as well. All 4 of these little ones were on their way to school that morning. Now, Sarah kept insisting that she was the driver of the silver SUV that was involved in the accident. However, what the twins didn't know was that the officer had a recording device and he set it down, and when he walked away, Sarah and Samantha continued to talk. On the recording device, they caught Sarah saying, quote, "I think that one of the guy is onto me, but I don't really care. There's no way they would ever know the difference between the 2 of us," end quote. So they can't tell. After hearing that recording, investigators quickly realized that Samantha and Sarah had lied to them. Then when the officer asked Sarah for her ID, again, Sarah is the one telling the cops that she was driving. She said that it was in the back of the black SUV, not the silver one, that was actually involved in the accident. When they asked her, why is your ID in the back of her car? Sarah said that after the crash, she put her ID in Samantha's car, which she admitted that the vehicle was actually her vehicle, but she told the police that they switched vehicles for the day. So these girls, switched vehicles, whatever. The cops had to be like, oh my hell, what in the Sam hell is going on here? Mind you guys, Sarah was on parole. She had just gotten out of prison not too long before the incident. They didn't understand why she would just take the fall for her sister Samantha, but when investigators went and spoke to the district store manager of the Hy-Vee store that Samantha and Sarah both worked at, investigators found out that they believed that Sarah would take the fall for Samantha because Samantha had taken care of Sarah's children when Sarah went to prison. Then the investigators ended up finding out that Samantha had actually called the HR department at the Hy-Vee not long after the crash and told the manager. She's on the phone with the manager and says, I quote, "I effed up. I just killed 2 Amish people. They were little ones. I just hit an effing buggy. I'm not sober. I'm actually high on meth." End quote. Literally, you had to have been completely twisted in another universe to do any of this. Anyways, the court documents also showed that the investigation recorded even more incriminating messages from Samantha. A friend had texted her about the crash, not knowing at the time that Samantha was involved, and Samantha responded to this friend saying, quote, "I don't think you realize that I did that. I hit that Amish buggy, and in the one that ended up ending the life of 2 people. I made Sarah take the fall for it, so I wouldn't go to prison." Security footage from the day of the crash shows Samantha leaving the parking lot of the store that they worked at in a silver SUV at 7:58 a.m. The crash happened just before 8:30 a.m. and it only takes about 25 minutes to get from the scene of the crash to the store where she was seen on the security footage. Then when the investigators listened back to the 911 call that came from Samantha's phone, they could hear Sam saying, quote, "I didn't see them coming up over the hill," seemingly admitting that she was the one driving. The investigators then executed a search warrant at Samantha's home on September 26, which was the day after the crash, and Sarah answered the door and said that Samantha had moved away. Now, during this search, however, investigators found Samantha inside the home. Samantha gave her phone to the investigators and provided a blood sample. The results showed that she did, in fact, at the time have been high on meth and had meth in her system as well as other things. Some people believe that this is the reason why Sarah was so willing to take the fall for her twin sister, Samantha. Samantha had already been convicted twice of a DUI at this time, and now she had just killed 2 little ones. The next day after this, a social worker shows up at the school of Sarah's 13-year-old daughter and said that the daughter admitted to her, quote, "My mom wasn't the one driving," end quote. She drove to the scene after the crash happened, end quote. Sorry. The investigators also found that Sam had Googled things on her phone, like weirdo. Quote, "What happens if you get in an accident with an Amish buggy and kill 2 people? Like, how much more, precise do you have to be about her Google searches?" She also Googled how to lock an iPhone the cops have. And she Googled, if you hit a buggy and kill 2 people, are you going to prison? Yeah. Now the witness told the police that the driver was a blonde woman wearing a high-V shirt. They also said that there was another woman there that looked exactly like the other woman, who just kind of appeared out of nowhere on the scene of the accident. Now, when the officers arrived, Sarah was wearing a black coat and black leggings. Samantha was wearing a red shirt that looked consistent with a Hy-Vee employee uniform, but then she changed into a black tank top. Now, a crash reconstruction proved that the driver of the silver SUV was traveling between 63 and 71 miles per hour at the time of the freaking crash, even though the speed limit was 55 miles per hour and there was no obstructions in the way. So over 1,400 feet completely clear, she should have been able to see the buggy. Now, the impact of this crash was so powerful that it shot the buggy into a ditch and it ended up ending the horse's life that was pulling it. At this point, Samantha has been charged with 21 counts, including vehicular, I can't say that freaking word, manslaughter, leaving the scene of the accident, failing to provide insurance, careless driving, speeding. Sarah is now facing more than a dozen felony charges for taking responsibility for criminal acts and aiding in an offender after attempting to deceive the police. Now, something I can't wrap my mind around is the fact that they have been charged, but they have not been arrested. I'm trying to figure this one out. I found an article that said that the charges were not significant enough to warrant an arrest. Like, WTH. What the fuck? The family of the little ones that unfortunately lost their lives and surviving ones ended up going to the hospital. They do have a GoFundMe set up and they are grateful for any and all support. The father spoke, "It's hard to go on without an arrest, and yet we feel God has helped us and he knew we needed Hannah. She flew, I'm not sure how far on the pavement. The angels were protecting us." The women have court at the end of March. One has court at the end of March of this year, and the other one has one in April of this year. So hopefully on those court dates, they get arrested. I cannot believe that they aren't arrested, and I don't understand how this accident doesn't warrant an arrest. Like, WTF, you guys. How? How in the world? You are speeding. There was nothing in the way. It was all clear. You could see, and you hit a buggy and kill 2 people, and it's not warrant for an arrest? WTF. But that's the crime, or that's the story. Hope you guys enjoy.